also Mr. Clemens and Mr. Tressler have been appointed to the board with terms expiring in 2019, and you'll be surprised how fast that gets here.
You may meet once or twice.
And actually, we're going to need to have another meeting in about a month, so you're going to believe us overdo it.
Excuse me, but when was the last meeting?
It's in 2012. You ready for the minutes, Mr. Chairman?
I am.
Health and Educational Facilities Board of Wilson County met in call session on February 16, 2012 at the office of the Joint Economic Community Development Board. Pursuant to published notice on roll call, the following members answered present: Veronica Bender, John Bradshaw, Richard Macon Jr., John McDermott III, constituting all the members of the board with the exception of G.C. Hickson, Dale Gibson, and Sharon McComb, who were absent. Approved the minutes of the prior meeting on August 5, 2010. Stated that it was time to re-elect officers. On motion of Ms. Bender, seconded by Mr. Macon, and unanimously carried, the following officers were elected. Mr. McDermott was elected chairman. Mr. Bradshaw was elected vice chairman. Mr. Hickson was elected secretary. Ms. McComb was elected treasurer. Mr. Rochelle furnished the board members with copies of a proposed debt management policy, which is now required of entities which may issue debt. On motion of Mr. Macon, seconded by Mr. Bradshaw, and unanimously carried, the policy was adopted. I explained to the board that the Bank of New York Mellon has recently forwarded the board a check for $1,435.35 as excess funds remaining from a 1978 bond issue. The board has no bank account and is not audited regularly. He stated that prior funds of the board had been endorsed to Wilson County in return for the county purchasing minute books for the board as needed, and the county paying the annual corporate filing fee with the Secretary of State. On motion of Mr. Macon, seconded by Mrs. Bender, and unanimously carried, the board directed the chairman to endorse the stated check to Wilson County with the request that the county continue to provide the stated services to the board. No further business.
Any questions about the minutes? May I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Bradshaw holds the position of chairman, and that Mr. McDermott did not stand for re-election, and so as his leaving the board, you became the chairman. The vice chairman spot is presently open. Mr. Hickson has served as secretary in the past, and Ms. McComb, who is now resigned, has served as treasurer. So y'all need some new officers.
Can you not do it again? There's anything, I would like to elect you as chairman.
Okay?
If I can get a second. Second.
Well, right back at you. I'd like to let you suggest that you serve as vice chair.
Okay, I'll take it.
Second.
I would move the nominations.
No, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. We got secretary, who's been Mr. Hickson. That agreeable? Put him on the slot, the list.
I just want to nominate myself.
I'd be happy to nominate G.C.
Okay.
Hickson as
I'll
secretary.
nominate, and I'll second.
All right, and then you need a treasurer. And
Newbie.
Nominate Mr. Clemens.
I second.
You're next if there's anything left.
afraid you're gonna get left out. You're gonna get left out.
We'll create Sergeant Arms or something. You can-
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll push
Okay.
it something.
So I think you can take care of all of that in one motion, Mr. Chairman.
All of the slate has been presented, and may I get a motion to accept and approve those?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Clemens. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, I need to give you some information. We're here today on what we're calling Green Tree Point. You got two documents to consider today. We'll give Phil one. And then we'll go through these in just a little bit. Have a resolution, an agreement to issue bonds, and then we're gonna hear about the project. All right. The document you're gonna be acting upon is the one titled a resolution authorizing subject to certain conditions, the issuance of not to exceed $5,905,000 multi-housing revenue bonds, one or more series for the purpose of financing the acquisition and rehabilitation of certain multifamily housing facilities, and authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement in connection with the issuance of the bonds. Now, this is the Freeman Webb Company dealing with us today. We have Sean McGuire, who's the Vice President of the company, here. And we have Dwayne Barrett, an attorney for the company, present with us. And they're gonna be here available to answer questions and give you information. The bond counsel is the national firm of Adams and Reese LLP. They're nationally recognized bond counsel. Now, Mr. Chairman, it's, well, we might want to hear from the applicants first, and we'll open it up to the public.
Yeah. We'd love to.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. Again, for those that haven't got to meet yet, I'm Sean McGuire with Freeman Webb Companies. This is just a little bit of information on the property that the company I represent, that we are currently under contract for. You might be familiar with the property already. It's an existing multifamily property called Green Tree Point. Again, we are here to seek your preliminary approval. As Mr. Rochelle mentioned, you'll have another meeting likely in another month, and that would be the meeting that will come to you and ask for your final approval of the bond issuance. So this is just a preliminary approval that we're asking for, so we can apply for the bonds through the Tennessee Housing and Development Agency, and ultimately Freddie Mac will be the bond purchaser. So happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'd also just quickly mention we're planning to put over $1.1 million back into the property to do some renovations, upgrades, and so I've got some information in the package for you on that as well. So happy to answer any questions at all you might have.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd suggest that you call for now a public hearing to allow any member of the public to ask questions in regard to the project.
We will open the floor for questions.
I have a question.
If you will state your name,
My
please.
name is Derek Hudson, and my question is, why does this come before this board? I have no clue. This is the Education and Health Board, so why does a project like this come through an Education and Health Board, which is not educational and it's not a health venture?
Because
I have no clue.
yeah, there's a legislature many years ago amended that statute that authorizes the creation of this board and included in the definition of an eligible project certain types of housing, primarily housing that has connections through the federal government that is geared toward lower income, moderate income housing, or housing for lower, moderate income families.
So is this Section 8 housing?
They
You
all
said
have
no.
different,
No.
they all have different connections. This is going through the THDA bond allocation.
And my last question is, where are Green Tree Point Apartments? Where are they?
The address is 1640 West Main Street,
Okay.
And I'm sure here.
about 3 miles from here.
Do you know, are you familiar with Lebanon?
Yes,
You know where Dunkin' Donuts is?
yes.
Right across the street from Dunkin' Donuts.
Got it.
Back in the back, off
Right.
of Highway 70, West Main there.
Okay. Anybody else?
That was government housing before though, right? Because when I think first moved to town, those are supplemented for low income, right? Is that the ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, if no one else requests recognition, then you can close the public hearing and submit the matter to the board for consideration, Mr. Chairman.
We will consider the public hearing closed and open it to the board for discussion and questions and conversation.
Okay, you're acting on the resolution, and again, you have packets here. You've got two folks familiar with the company and with the project. It's pretty commonplace for these type of projects to be done. Federal government has some limits on how much bonds you can issue, so being able to get an allocation from THUD is, or the Housing Development Agency, is a pretty good step. The company, Freeman Webb, I think most everybody knows Freeman Webb is an outstanding company, that's done business in Nashville for many, many years. And I think, John, that they have extensive experience in these type of housing facilities.
Yes, sir.
A couple of questions. You have it under contract now?
Correct, yes, sir.
And when are you scheduled to close?
We should close on or before December 15th. Of course, all approvals coming in place.
And the $5.905 million bond issue does or does not include the 1.50 million improvements?
It really does not, because we will be partnering with Regions Bank for a portion of that, and they will be contributing a portion of the equity, as well we will, to actually do the renovations. So really, the bonds are simply just to purchase the property and to finance the property.
And THDA has provided an allocation?
Not yet.
What-
We will be.
If you explain that process.
So we have to apply to them for that bond authority and that application. And so really, before we can do that, we needed to come and get the board's preliminary approval. And so once we have that, hopefully if we have that, we can apply to THDA. And then we should get notification within the next month of our approval.
But you coordinated with THDA. It's just one of the conditions is to getting a preliminary approval first. But then when you go to THDA at the end of the week, at the beginning of next week, they're gonna say, okay. It's not like this is.
They haven't seen it or you
Yeah, it's not like it's a
discussed it.
grant application of some sort in which they can turn around in 2 weeks and go, no.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions? One of my jobs is to make sure there's language in to say that none of you are held personally liable. And that's in here.
And nor is the county
Nor is the county.
held liable for the bonds.
Correct.
Questions?
So in order to approve it, it takes a motion to approve and a second and then a vote.
And then we would meet again in a month or so to finalize the approval?
Yeah, well, I thought we'd talk about that next.
Okay.
To pick a day that's most advantageous for all of them.
Is there a motion to preliminary approve the issuance?
So moved.
I'll second.
GC motion, Todd with the second. Any additional comments? All in favor?
I would ask, what's the
Unanimous.
difference in financing between bonds and typical financing on the market? And that's just because I don't understand. What's the real advantages or
These are,
bond financing?
these are what are called private activity bonds, which are tax exempt.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, the tax, the interest, okay. So the attractiveness is for the purchaser,
Well,
but the rate.
This is sort of a public purpose, and so for that reason, the government says, if you loan money for this public purpose, then we're not gonna tax the interest on that loan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right. So you need to announce the vote.
It was unanimous.
Very
In
good.
favor of preliminary approving the issuance.
Very good. Now, one more thing we have is that you heard the deadline there where they're trying to get things closed. Well, see, Cindy had told me that the 10th or 11th of December was a hopeful time for it.
Correct.
They would like for you to meet, you have to pass a final resolution, and they would like for you to meet no later than December the 2nd. That's on a Tuesday. I would suggest that you just allow some, make sure we got enough time on, if you wanted to meet on Monday the 1st, if that's, you have December the 1st, or the week before is Thanksgiving, and I think you'd have Monday and Tuesday of that week, the 24th and 25th. Anybody got a preferred time?
I'm open. I think I'm open too.
I would prefer the 1st or the 2nd of December, if that will work.
Would the 1st be okay?
First would be better than the second.
Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock here at this room.
Yes,
Here. That's what we'll do.
All right, we'll get the notice run, you'll get,
Monday, December the 1st.
we'll get all the notices run, you'll get more notices, and we'll have the paperwork ready to go when you, December the 1st. And copies of these documents will be placed in the minutes for public inspection. And that's all the business that I have for you at the present time. See? It's not a
Not
hard
so
job.
hard, was it?
Do you have our board checks?
Well, I have all the money you're gonna get.
That was a good try, though, I appreciate it.
We're gonna try for years, we're gonna try for years.
Years.
Any other questions or comments? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
We'll stand adjourned.